Hey guys, welcome to the Unity Developer Day. I'm Madhur Gupta, I'm a field engineer with Unity, and today I'm talking about converting your game to data-oriented tech stack. We already heard about what data-oriented tech stack contains. It's the C# burst compiler, job system, and the entity component system. But what all these things mean? We'll go into that. First of all, what is our agenda? Why are we moving towards the data-oriented tech stack? When do you want to use the dots architecture? And how to implement that? So why integrate dots? Currently, if you're using mono behaviors, game objects in your game, your memory layout looks like this. Every game object would have different components attached to them, and the memory layout is completely haphazard. But when you are using dots, your memory layout would be something like this, in which everything is laid out very nicely. All the data components that are there are very streamlined. And when we are processing them in one go, everything is sequential and everything is processed at one go. And with this, you get a lot of performance. So let's see a couple of examples what happens in our game object and mono behavior components. So here are a couple of examples in which we have movement scripts, we have anime behaviors, and projectile behaviors. But if you see closely, we have overlapping components here, overlapping data. So there is float that is used for speed and lifetime. There is player health, floating variables. There is rigid body components that are used for collisions. And what happens inside each of them is we have duplicate code. For enemy movement, for projectile movement, we have similar functionality, but every place the code is repeated. Similarly, on the collision side, we're checking for the same behaviors. We're checking if the tag is there or not, and then doing something with that. When do we want to integrate dots? If you're thinking like, I have a game idea and I want to port my game using dots, I want to create my game using dot, that is not the right approach. You want to use dots when you are solving a specific problem, when there is a technical hurdle out there. And you want to introduce dots incrementally into your game to solve particular problems and whatnot, with the solid understanding of what are the limitations of this dots and what is our roadmap to support all of the features. So let's see how to integrate dots into your real game. So I have my game here in which I can move around and I can shoot bullets. Let's say currently this thing works for my design idea, and later on the designer comes to me and he says that we want to implement spread shots. And that spread shot is every 10th of a second we have to fire 20 by 20, 400 bullets. So let's see how that happens with the same code that I had earlier. We have a really bad frame rate drop in which we are creating 20 by 20, 400 bullets at the same time. I know you guys would be knowing about object pooling, and you would say, like, we won't implement this instantiating these. We will create pools and use that. But just for the sake of example, bear with me. So I have these bullets here that's taking a really toll on my game here. So what I can do is I can start using ECS for this, for my bullets. Just incrementally add dots into my game. So by using ECS, if you see now, I can have as many bullets, but there are no game objects being created. You won't see that in the hierarchy. And all of these are separate entities that are being created. So let's see how this is being created through code. In the spawn bullet ECS, First of all, I create an entity that is object there. I call my entity manager instance and call the instantiate and the bullet prefab ECS. Let's take a look at what this is, bullet prefab ECS. So the first thing that if you are migrating from mono behaviors to this two dots to ECS, you have to create a game object entity here. That will tell the entity manager on the relevant systems that this is an entity that is doing something. Next, there are certain components that we have added. And if we see individual components here, opening. Let's see this in the side view only. Oh. That happens always during the live demos, so bear with me. So let's see in this bullet component here, there's just a struct here with the bullet component that is deriving from I component data and just having a time value, float value that is also seen in the inspector. And then we are just defining bullet component that is deriving from component data wrapper for bullet. So that's the main paradigm shift here, in which components inside ECS don't contain any kind of code. They just contain the data. Whatever variables you would have, that would be part of the component. And whatever operations you want to do, that would be part of the systems. So in the bullet ECS prefab, we have certain components that we have added, and all of these are just data. Let's see a particular, now it opens up. Now we see on to a couple of, for the bullet, how we are moving the bullet. Let's see that system. ECS systems. I don't know why Visual Studio is hanging up on me right now. So have you guys used the Solution Explorer? Whenever you are using Visual Studio, you would see the Solution Explorer that will show you the different projects that are there and the components attached to, and the files here. And sometimes it becomes very tedious to just go through a particular file that you want to go through. That is available in the hierarchy in your project there, in the correct format, but not available in the Solution Explorer. What you can do there is, you can use the Unity Project Explorer. Visual Studio will let me show that. You can access that through View and Unity Project Explorer, and it will show you the same hierarchy as the hierarchy you have for your Unity project here. Why is it unloading and reloading things? Okay, let's move on from the Visual Studio part. So now that we have created these ECS systems, even using ECS when I'm doing spread shots, let's enable this. And now when I'm firing the bullets, I can have so many bullets and no performance impact. You would be wondering how I can view these entities that are being created. You can, once you have added the entities here, you can go to Analysis, and then the Entity Debugger. Let's dock it on the bottom. And as soon as we do something in the using the ECS, it will show you all the objects in the using the entity system. And when you select any of those, it will also show you the components that are being used on and which systems are being used currently. So bullet culling system, collision system, move forward, mesh instance, and whatnot. Any component, any entity that is using any systems, that would be visible here. And also on the left side, you will also see the systems that are in your game running. You don't need to attach the systems to any game object or any entity now. Any system that is available in your code base is able to be, Unity will able to access that and run it if the parameters are valid for that. So let's see this. And as soon as the conditions for the entities are met and no object is there, they will stop running. So you get the performance boost there. And as you create entities, use entities, those systems are visible to you, and also the time taken by these systems are also visible here. If you're wondering how do you access the entity system, you go to Window, Package Manager, and in that, there's an entities here. If you are not able to see that, go to the preview option. This is an older version, so it's coming like this. And in that, entities, and then click install. And then you will have access to the ECS framework. Also, I'm using the job system and the burst compiler. The job system is basically C# jobs that you create to work on your data. That is part of the systems that we need to create. And if we want to just use the burst compiler, just enable use burst jobs. And Unity will automatically convert the code that you have written to a very highly optimized version of that optimized version code. And if you want to see what that is, what that it looks like, you can go to the burst inspector, see all the systems running in, even the Unity internal systems are available to see. And let's refresh it here. And you will see the machine language code for that system. And even if you are able to optimize that, you can send it across to us. Assembly code, .NET, LLVM, all that code is available for you to see. So, is Visual Studio back up? Yay. So, in the move forward system that we had, any component system, any systems that we want to create has to derive from job component system because we are writing jobs. And if you want your code to compile, code to work with burst compiler, just add this attribute on the top, burst compile. And whatever update you want to do for your job, you put that in a iJob parameter. And Unity this is still hung up. So there are not many developers or programmers here, so I will just skip this part here and move on to my final thing. Are there any questions for the dots? No? It's a lot to take in. with the dots. The entity component system is there, the job system is there. It will be a steep learning curve for you guys to understand what this is, how to work with it. But once you get the idea of how these components are laid out and how do you create these systems, it's become super easy. You would think like mono behaviors are so outdated. And you would also get the benefit out of performance and optimizations for your code and for your game. Q2, Q3 timeframe, dots and ECS should be out.
Hello.
Yep.
Can we have the
Yep.
yeah? Can we have the sample codes which you just shown?
Yeah, this project, I can't share it with you guys right now. But if you are interested, you can go to our Unity Technologies GitHub page, and there's entity component system samples that are available for you guys to see. It's available for free. You can download and experiment with it. There's also a Unity Technologies Sharpshooter ECS. That was a collaborative project done by Unity and Intel, in which we are showcasing the ECS project. Moreover, if you are quite interested in learning more and how to scale things up, the Megacity project that is there, in which we talked it about earlier, millions of render, 5,000 of AI vehicles and whatnot. That project is also available online. You can go to unity.com/megacity, and from there you can download the whole project with the complete assets and all. Does that answer your question? If you want to learn things, there are plenty of samples available for you guys to learn.
Is it compatible for VR?
It will eventually.
Okay, means the performance you...
Performance, yeah. So later on, I am also doing a talk on Tiny. Tiny would also eventually support AR. Mike, in the front.
Hi.
Okay.
I wanted to ask, what is the adaptability of existing projects? Like, if you want to convert your existing projects using ECS and the entire dots?
It all depends on solving particular problems. If you are saying just convert my existing project into dots, I won't recommend that. It has to solve some particular problem that you are facing in which we need to get performance out of it. So a lot of samples that we had shown earlier during our previous Unites and during GDCs, we were solving particular problems of having like thousands of enemy agents working together and fighting each other. Or we are wanting to have very fast multiplayer action in which we have hundreds of players fighting each other. For those kind of specific problems, we want to use dots. If you just want to use dots for the sake of it, it's difficult.
Okay, so mostly right now I get the impression that it's kind of like a very advanced pool manager. Is that how it is?
I won't say that exactly.
Because in your example also, you have only used it to instantiate
It is one
bullets.
instance of using dots for solving a problem.
Yeah,
It
so
could
that's
be
what I'm
used
asking.
for
Could it be
rendering
used
things
to
out.
make a system itself? Like,
No, so another example is Megacity. In that, if you want to render millions of objects, you want to create a whole big city, you won't be able to do that in the normal Unity, in the default pipeline. But if you are using ECS, you can do that. You can load, unload assets, stream them in using ECS.
all right, okay.
In the front? Yeah, he's coming.
So can we use like ECS in hierarchy, like if we have game objects in hierarchy, like for example in my game, we were making a game in which there are thousands, like there were 10,000 positions which are being stored as transforms. So we wanted to design those, like we wanted some cavities here and there in those grids. So can we use ECS to optimize that? Like we want to design a grid with cavities in it. So
If you're just wanting it for information, you can use that. If you want to operate on your data, if you have just a grid and then you want to process something using those grids, you can use that for ECS.
like we can still design the elements for the game if it
Yes.
is in high.
Yes. Yep.
So yeah, like you said, Unity is moving forward with the whole dots architecture. So is there a timeline wherein which mono behavior will eventually be phased out? Because I personally prefer the object-oriented paradigm. So
One thing I want to make it clear is we're not going away from mono behaviors. Mono behaviors will still be a part of Unity, and it will always be a part of Unity. We are just adding more stuff because people needed these kind of behaviors, need kind of systems in place so that they can scale up on their games and applications they want to make.
but
Mono behaviors will be part of Unity always.
But if all the new systems are being developed using ECS, like the networking system is being developed using the dots architecture, or the physics is being used using dots, so we also have to use dots too.
So you have to understand the systems are being designed and created using dots, but the mono behavior part would still remain inside Unity. You will use, let's say, if the physics is there, you will just attach a physics component, box collider, havoc onto an object. Internally, it might be using ECS, but for you, it will remain the same. The
So there
workflow
will
remains the
be
same.
an interface between ECS and mono behavior.
Yeah, they will work together. So examples that I showed you here, in that all the other things that are there, the player movement, the rendering, all of that is being handled by the normal Unity system. Only for the bullets, I changed that to ECS.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay, cool. Thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, one more.
Yeah, I wanted to yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask if it is possible to develop a game completely with the ECS and excluding the mono behavior. Is it possible?
It's possible. But you have to design all of your systems, all of your architecture around ECS.
Because when I was trying ECS, I had no clue how to, create a game object using ECS, all those things. Like right now, it's so easy just to, create a class of a game object and, just put it in a hierarchy. So how do we do that using ECS?
So one thing you have to understand here is ECS is still in beta. It's still being developed on. And we are looking for feedback on how to improve on the workflows. We are giving it out for you to test it out, give us feedback on improvements on the features that you need, and we'll incorporate that. And when it's finally out of preview, it will be a much easier workflow than today.
Yeah, because right now it's not that easy to, adapt it as early as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
So we need feedback for that. Whatever problems you are facing, whatever issues you are facing, if you need documentation, better documentation in a particular area, give us the feedback on that.
Yeah, that's really needed.
Already a documentation is out there
Yeah,
for
but
ECS.
what I am saying is to implement ECS in normal gaming is a bit difficult for me at least. So I would need something very easy to go with.
Okay, I will take
that's
that
a
as a
kind of
feedback.
feedback I have.
I will take that as a
Thank you.
feedback. Thank you.